people who haven't participated with us before. Um, so anyway, I don't know if you all can see me, but I can see many of you or many of your names. My name is Becky Corbin. I'm the president and CEO of NACCE, and I'm excited to be here with members of the team today and to sort of kick off the webinar with Suzanne that's focused on workforce development to Gen Z. We thought this might be a topic that's of interest to you. But to begin, I just wanted, for those of you who may not know about NACCE, to give you just a brief overview. So somehow you got the email. So either your college is a member of NACCE, or perhaps you will be a member of NACCE in the future. That's what we hope for. I wanted to just share a little bit about who we are and what we do. So we are a nonprofit educational association of community college faculty, administrators, presidents, and chancellors who are committed to entrepreneurial mindset and innovative action. So if you look across the United States, we have about 360 members in over 40 states and Canada. So our impact is we reach about 3.3 million students, and our desire is to continue to co-create and provide and distribute resources that are of value to you. So hopefully this will be a continued journey or the first step in your learning process about NACCE. Our mission is to engage members through entrepreneurial thinking and innovative action. And our philosophy is membership is the heart of what we do. And that's what we hope today is that this webinar and this content will help you back in your marketing office to maybe think about things differently and also to take innovative action. Ultimately, our vision is uplifting communities by elevating prosperity. I'm going to just show you one quick slide about the journey of NACCE. We are not new on the scene. We are a full-fledged adult. We were formed in 2002 on the campus of Springfield Technical and Community College in Massachusetts. We incorporated as a nonprofit in 2007. So since that time, I joined the organization about a decade ago, and soon after, with our board and our members' participation, we started a model of piloting, expanding, and scaling with a variety of funders. So that has served us very well. We have very large industry partners. We have community foundations. In 2020, we moved our headquarters to Cary, North Carolina, which is here in the Research Triangle. We maintain an office in Massachusetts, and we have staff that work virtually. So what you can see at the top, and Suzanne is going to cover this later on in the program, we feel this is a really key thing that could help you in terms of the work that you do, is in the end of 2023, we acquired SkillPoint as a charitable donation. So it was a standalone digital platform. And then as we acquired it, the purpose that we have is really to make it available to members. So we'll get into that more, but it helps drive enrollments of students that wouldn't normally go to your community college website and looks at skilled trades and things like that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Suzanne to kick off what she's going to cover, and hopefully you all will have a great experience at this webinar, and it'll be the first of many that you attend. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Becky, and it's really great to be here. I'm super excited to be talking about marketing workforce development to Gen Z today. As Becky said, my name is Suzanne Cart, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at NACCE. Today, here's what we're going to cover. I want to give you a little background on myself so that you kind of know where I'm coming from a marketing perspective, from a generations perspective. Then we would like to talk about Gen Z, why target Gen Z, and then how to reach and appeal to this demographic. So I'm not Gen Z, obviously. I'm a Gen Xer. And I've been working in marketing education associations for 20 plus years. And I live in Northern Michigan, but here's how I got started in the study of generational differences. Back early in my career, maybe 2 years into my career, I was working at a local United Way, and I was the only Gen Xer with a whole staff of baby boomers. And I always felt like I was really misunderstood. And somebody I worked with at the time knew about this topic, and she said, well, that's because you're Gen X. And once they understand that you're not a boomer, that you're Gen X, they'll talk to you differently. And I thought that sounds kind of messed up, but what? So I went to the library because I'm the daughter of a retired Detroit public school teacher / librarian. It's the first thing I thought of. And there really wasn't a whole lot of internet back then. And I found a book called Marketing to Generation X, and it turned out there was something to it. Each generation is a little bit different, and it does impact how we communicate, how we take in information, how we process. So, but fast forward a couple of years ago, this is how I found out that I'm now old, because I was working at a different job and I worked with Caitlin, and she is a Gen Z. And she was talking about her Kohl's bill. If you don't have Kohl's by you, it's a department store, and her charge card bill, credit card bill. And I'm like, oh, I love their Lauren Conrad jeans. And she looked me right directly in the eye and said, I don't buy my clothes there. And I thought, oops, yep, yeah, I'm out of touch, right? I'm not the young one anymore. I'm not the new kid on the block anymore. But here's the thing. I want to read you a quote about younger generations. The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for their elders and chatter in the place of exercise. This is from Socrates. So every generation that comes into the workforce is always getting, oh, they're doing it wrong. They're not as good as us. I think Gen Xers, we were sarcastic. I think that the Gen Z's now being reported as lazy, and it's just simply not true. Every generation, when you come into young adulthood, it has to face this. So who is Gen Z? So right now, the thing to know about generations when you're looking at them demographically, the only one with firm start and end dates are the baby boomers, 1946 to 1964. So it's all based on birth rates. But there are three things that generationally impact your communication style. One is when you were born. Two, what is your formative cohort experience? So what was going on when you were getting out of high school, and what's going on in the world right now? So for the most part, Gen Z, we're looking at them, we're saying born 1997 to 2012. So they're just entering adulthood. The millennials, they're born 1981 to 1996, but you'll hear millennials who were born in the early 80s saying, yeah, I kind of more Gen X than I am millennial, because when you're almost cusp years, that can happen. Gen X is born 1965 to 1980. It's the smallest group. But the boomers were born 1946 to 1964. However, there's a leading edge and there's a trailing edge. So if you're one of those boomers that was born after 1960, you're more likely to identify as a Gen Xer, because if you were coming out of high school in the late 70s, your formative cohort experience is going to be much similar to that Gen Xer than somebody who was finishing high school in the early 60s. So some facts about Gen Z: 68% still live with their parents. That being said, we have to keep in mind a lot of them aren't grown up yet. Okay, so that would be wild that they're still living with their parents. But it also is an advantage for training programs, because they probably will have the means to take that time and to be able to take additional training or do workforce development training, because they don't necessarily have all the responsibilities that you have later in life. 50% stay up to date on news through social media, which is a lot different than older generations. Used to be the newspaper, but then there's also CNN and watching Fox News or MSNBC. 47% use YouTube to research products prior to buying, which is interesting because a lot of older generations are more likely to be Googling. So what's great about Gen Z in 2024 is that they're open to non-traditional training. So here's some great information. 24% of recent high school graduates plan to enter the workforce directly. 21% aim to attend a two-year college. 9% are considering trade school certificate programs. 7% want to take a gap year. 4% want to join the military. So what this all means is that 60% of Gen Z graduates are exploring alternatives to the traditional four-year career path. And the reason for that is, one is how much student debt has become and how expensive a four-year education has become. So Gen Z tends to be more pragmatic about education compared to previous generations. So they might question why they should even get a four-year degree, considering the high cost of tuition and potential student debt. There was a study done by Pew that said 72% of Gen Z feel that alternative pathways like apprenticeships, certifications, trade schools can be more financially prudent and equally fulfilling. And there is a trend among this group, and it's kind of from gaming, if you think about it, kind of learn by doing. Like when you learn to play a video game, you don't read the instructions and then try to do it, you just jump right in. So there is a notable preference in education for hands-on practical learning rather than just theoretical lecture, take the quiz, that kind of thing. Now, I found this fascinating here because the top 3 growing jobs, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, between 2020 and 2030, first one, wind turbine technician. Second one, nurse practitioner. And the third one, solar photovoltaic installer. And yes, I had to work on pronouncing that. But 2 of the 3 of these jobs don't necessarily require a 4-year degree. So that's good news if you are running workforce development and are promoting it. And the thing about Gen Z is that it doesn't respond to marketing the same way as millennials do or that Gen X does. And definitely not the same as baby boomer messaging or even the message vehicles like print or postcards or that kind of thing. But here's the thing when it comes to marketing, and I've done a lot of trained a lot of marketers over the years. And one of the easiest things to slip into is just thinking that you're the audience. And it's because it's easy to market to yourself. If this was something, if I was trying to market something to a Gen X audience, that's easier for me because I know that audience because I am that audience. But we need to get inside of the head of Gen Z. And most of us marketers, especially in higher ed, continuing ed, we don't necessarily fit into that Gen Z category. So you want to ask yourself, how do we reach them and what's going to resonate with them? So one thing is purpose-driven work. And this kind of took me by surprise because I'm kind of the cynical Gen Xer, but Deloitte did a study and they found 49% of Gen Z, they're willing to take a pay cut to work for an employer whose values align with theirs. And things like environmental sustainability, social justice, mental health awareness, common values, and companies that demonstrate commitment to these causes are more attractive to the Gen Z employees. Their learning preferences too. There was a study done by LinkedIn that noted 76% of Gen Z see learning as key to advancing their careers. And many seek employers who offer robust training and development opportunities. So there's a good opportunity for us as workforce development educators to even partner with our local employers on doing training for jobs that need filling. Also, the ability to develop new skills, especially in fast evolving areas like technology, data, sustainability, it's a major draw for this group. And they view continuous skill building as essential to career mobility. This is the generation that grew up teaching themselves how to do everything by watching YouTube videos. I actually have a funny story on a side note. When my daughter was, in elementary school, she asked me if she could use my eyeliner to make a clover on her cheek for a St. Patrick's Day parade. And I said, no, let me buy you your own. And she goes, well, can I get a black one too? And I was like, sure. So I come home, I give her the 2 eyeliners. All of a sudden, this kid comes down. She's like 9 years old, full smoky eye. And I said, how do you know how to do that? And she said, I learned it on YouTube. So this generation's been doing that kind of stuff since they were little kids. The work preferences. So a morning consult found that 54% of Gen X have or are planning to start a side hustle, and entrepreneurship and gig roles appeal to this generation's independence and self-direction, which I think is kind of cool because one of the things that we have at SkillPoint, we have at NACCE, Becky talked about SkillPoint being acquired by NACCE, and SkillPoint has just launched a new resource called Start Your Own Business. So it has all this information on how you go about that. So if that's something you're interested in looking at, you can find it at skillpoint.com. So when we get down into this, what does this mean for your marketing, right? You want to tap into this generation's workforce preferences, and you need to reach them where they are. So it's not going to be the same as like when I was, getting out of high school, or when a lot of you were getting out of high school. Things were just a lot different, and we need to be able to reach them where they are. It's not just sending the recruiters to high school college night, right? We got to reach them in the digital space. And we need messaging that is going to resonate with this group. So here's the thing about marketing. It's really changing. The last 6 years have been fascinating about the differences in how we consume media and how we market and promote things. However, it's really also not changing because at the end of the day, marketing is about who do you want to reach? What do you want them to do? What message will resonate with them? And how do you get to them? So, messaging, Gen Z, what they're looking for desire for practical, hands on work, job stability and financial security, sustainability and community impact, alternatives to traditional academia, and opportunities for entrepreneurial pathways. And when we're looking at these messages, though, as academics, sometimes we can get really wordy and create word salads. But we also have to remember that this group, like the rest of us, is getting inundated with like thousands of marketing messages a day. So we need to keep those messages short and simple and to the point. Now, this is some information that I think is fascinating because I started my marketing career at the infancy of the internet. And at that time, it was everything was print based, brochures. That's how we got our word out. But now, upwards of 70% of time spent in media spent with digital media. Traditional TV like cable, we're still seeing, people are using that, but traditional radio, not so much. Print media is way down. But here's an interesting thing is that gaming is on the uptick, and you can actually advertise through gaming. Like, for me, I like to play Candy Crush, and ads will show up in that, but it gets more sophisticated as you're more of a sophisticated gamer. So when we say digital media, this is what we're talking about. It's not just the internet. It's social media. It's video streaming. There's like basically two kinds of video streaming now. There's OTT, which is on your phone when you get ads you're watching on your phone, or CTV, which is when you're streaming to your television. And time are spent on smartphones and tablets and computers. Average daily use is exceeding 7 to 8 hours. Now, our traditional TV, we're talking about traditional broadcast and cable. However, younger audiences have really migrated towards streaming services, and I have some data on that coming up. Radio usage is not what it used to be because we all have Spotify now, or we're listening to music on different streaming services. Print media is way down. And in fact, I'm sure you saw that during the elections this year. Like, remember back in the day, you just get every day tons and tons of mail, snail mail for campaigns. And now that's really much more limited than it used to be. And then gaming, we're talking about console gaming. So if you have some, like something that you play your games on, or PC, or your mobile phone. This is growing in importance for younger generations. Now, I'd like to use this example from the Harvard Business Review, not because I think you should email Gen Z, because email is not really their form of communication that they like. However, what this shows is the big difference in the cost of promoting something digitally versus promoting it through print. So they did a study of a national retailer. So if you look at like direct mail retailers and politicians, those are usually where, or direct marketing, I should say, not necessarily mail, but direct marketing. That's where the advances come in marketing real quick. And they did a study and they sent out 35,000 direct mail pieces and 35,000 emails. Very similar response rate, very similar average order value, very similar dollars earned per mail, but it cost $21,000 to do that snail mail campaign and $210 to do the email. So the revenue was similar, but the ROI on the direct mail was 27. The ROI on the email was 2,600. So the thing is sometimes people will push, do a postcard, do a catalog, do a brochure. Not today. Now we've come to the point where we're over that hump now. We're really doing more digital stuff. So when I'm putting together a marketing campaign, I always start with the cornerstone, okay? And the cornerstone, I consider the campaign is a powerful website. And by powerful website, I don't mean it's all tricked out with all the bells and whistles. What I mean is that it's search engine optimized because more than 90% of people search the web before making a purchase. So you want to make sure that you're showing up in the top of those search results. You want it to be mobile optimized because more people access the internet from a mobile device than they do from a laptop or a desktop. Of course, you want it to look good, but what's more important that it's easy to navigate. So you want people to be able to get to your training in 3 clicks or less because people do not have the patience that they used to. So if it's hard to find what you're selling on the website, you're going to have some problems. So once you get that all set up, and I could go on for days just about websites, but we're kind of giving you the high level overview. The thing is it's now time to drive traffic. A lot of times we think that people are just coming into our website, www.nacce.com. And that's really not how it is. Most of the traffic that's coming to you is you're driving the traffic to your website. And this is kind of how we diverge from older generations with Gen Z. So they prefer visual, interactive, mobile-friendly content. So that's one thing to keep in mind. They're really big on authenticity, and they have better BS radars than the rest of us because they've grown up on the internet. You know, they're going to be much less likely to fall for a scam. So you need to really make sure that you're being authentic. And that's even including things like testimonials. You're going to want to make sure you have first and last names, that they're real people, that you're not, faking it. And these habits are reshaping the media landscape, and they're influencing how brands connect with this generation. So social media is one way to reach them where they are. So according to McKinsey and Company, 60% of Gen Z are heavily influenced by social media content when they're considering career options. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining active, visually compelling presence on these platforms. And we're going to talk about where they are on the platforms. And they might be lurking on Facebook, but they tend to be on more video forward platforms. So they're highly engaged on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. In fact, 80% of digital content worldwide, is video content. And if you can use these channels to share quick, visually engaging content that highlights success stories, showcases hands-on training, or offers day-in-the-life glimpses of trade careers, you're going to have success. So, and you also want to create interactive and engaging digital content. So, Adobe's Future of Creativity report noted that Gen Z is 50% more likely than previous generations to engage in interactive digital experiences. And by interactive digital experiences, we mean things like quizzes and virtual training tours, virtual tours of training facilities, or live Q&A sessions. And I thought this was a great point to point out that SkillPoint, which is a resource offered through NACCE, when the way that SkillPoint gets people to your website is they use search engine optimization and search engine marketing to drive people to a quiz. And once you take the quiz, and it's a very visual quiz, it shows you pictures, and it's actually very fascinating. If you go to skillpoint.com, I recommend taking it because I took it and it works, and it's not asking questions, it's more showing you pictures. And then it'll give you the careers that you'd be good at, and then you can type in your zip code and find training for that career in your area. So also, okay, this is some statistics I had, but I was working on these slides before the election, so I'm kind of interested to see how this is going to impact that. But Gen Z, study finds says that approximately 74% of Gen Z individuals in the U.S. prefer texting as their primary mode of communication, which is interesting. But I know we were all getting, just our phones blown up during the election with texts that we weren't asking for. So I'm kind of curious to look at the data moving forward to see if that's still going to be true in 3 or 4 months. On social media, there are 20% of them are on Snapchat, 25% on YouTube, 27% on Insta, and 28% on TikTok. So even if you're not of Gen Z and you're not super comfortable with those formats, it is probably a good time to get your toes in the water on that, because this is where it's shifting. And this is a great some great status. 98% of Gen Z download or stream video content at least once a month. And the great thing about streaming is it's not cost prohibitive as traditional broadcast
Can
is.
you hear me now, sir? I can now. Okay.
Okay, can we please mute everybody mute? Thank you. Anyways, how do I create video ads? So it's actually easier to get involved in OTT and CTV and even audio streaming than you would think. So there's a couple things that you can do. I recommend working with a vendor, and in your local area, typically have radio station conglomerates, right? And they all have a digital division now, and they can help you not only place ads, but produce ads. And the ads do not necessarily have to be what they used to be, professionally produced. They can do static, ad mats. And you've seen it if you've been streaming on TV and an ad will come up. It's not a video ad, it's just a static ad. And those are ways that you can reach people. And the great thing is by doing targeting on digital streaming, you don't have to send your ad to everybody who's watching that. Okay. So let's say you want to put an ad on your local news that's for traditional television, it's going to be, targeting everybody who's watching the news. But they have enough data with streaming services that they can target you where you are. And it doesn't necessarily be if you were targeting a course in welding, it's not necessarily because you're watching a TV show about welding. So for instance, a personal example is at NACCE, we use a service called Smartsheet, right? To keep track of stuff. And the other day don't judge me, okay, because I'm getting up there in age, but I was streaming reruns of Knots Landing, the nighttime soap opera from the 80s, for those of you who remember. And I was served up an ad for Smartsheet. So Knots Landing and Smartsheet don't have anything to do with each other, but Smartsheet and Suzanne have something to do with each other. Streaming services, here's for audio where you're going to find Gen Z, most of them on Spotify, 68.4%. Then we have Apple Music, YouTube Music, SoundCloud, Amazon, and then Google Play. The great thing about Spotify is to advertise on Spotify, again, you can reach those audiences. It's inexpensive. And if you write up your script, they will produce it for you as part of the ad campaign. So you don't even have to worry about getting it voiced over. Now, podcasting. So here's where we're seeing a little bit, and I think it's because not all Gen Z is entered into adulthood, but right now, 23% of Gen Z listens to podcasts compared to 37% of millennials. But if I look back, as you get into the workforce, you get interests as an adult. For instance, we have the Forward with NACCE podcast. So if you're somebody who is working in higher ed, community college entrepreneurship, continuing ed, this would be something that's of interest to you. And if you want to look at it, you want to check it out, you go to nacce.com/podcast. You can see all the great information. So my prediction is as Gen Z gets more into adulthood, that they also will be listening to more podcasts as their interests diversify. But that's just a number I think we need to keep an eye on. And do your own or use an agency. Like I said, the Spotify ads are pretty easy. You just write them up and you just upload them, and they give you a proof, and you approve or don't approve. But if you want to get more in depth, like I said, you want to look at go to your radio stations and see what they're offering for digital products. Because on my last job, I did a lot of media buying, and trust me, they're all doing it now, and they can help get you where you need to be, and they can target based on where you are, who you're trying to get at, what these people are behaving like online. So in the conclusion, here are some takeaways for marketing workforce development to Gen Z. So the first is you want to leverage your digital channels. So focus on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. That's where Gen Z spends much of their time. Now, I know a lot of times the instinct is like, oh, let me just get a kid to do this for me because they know the platforms. And that's true. The younger people will tend to be better working within TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, but they're not necessarily good at the strategy behind what you're trying to send as a marketing message. So this is how you want to collaborate and make sure that you're not just handing it off to somebody who's right out of school and is really good at posting to TikTok, but doesn't really get the strategy behind marketing workforce development. You want to make sure that you're promoting authenticity. So real stories, relatable content, testimonials, transparent messaging. You want to build trust because they're going to be less likely to trust you because, again, they grew up with digital media. And then showcase purpose and impact. Like I said, this group they want to make a difference. They want to do work that's meaningful, and they want to develop meaningful skills. And then provide those interactive experiences. So whether that is Q&As, live Q&As, webinars, or quizzes, that kind of thing, that content is going to be more relatable and easier to get to them. So what I'm going to do now is, if you have any questions, I'm going to ask you to put them into the chat. And because of the way my screens are set up, I am having a hard time accessing the chat, but I'm going to ask Lydia if she would put her mic on, and if there's anything in there, you could read the questions to me, and I will go ahead and answer them all.
Sounds great. No questions yet.
Okay, well, don't be afraid to be the first. I'm not afraid to answer any questions. Like I said, this is a new territory with Gen Z. And the one thing we want to make sure is that we don't treat them like they're millennials or Gen Xers or baby boomers, because they're their own people. And they are going to be likely to respond to different things than we are normally used to putting out there.
You will be able to receive a recording of this webinar.
Okay.
We have a comment. This is so helpful. I am working on some marketing right now, and I will make some tweaks to my plan.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Like I said, demographically, looking at groups by generations, it's just one way that you can divide up your target audiences. There's also basically socioeconomic ways. There's based on interests. It's not only Gen Z that's looking at workforce development. We're also looking at people who are in their 30s looking for a second career, or people who want to upskill where they are, because there are now so many jobs that didn't even exist 10 years ago, and there's tons of them. And you can, train for them relatively quickly. I know a guy who used to be a manager at a car wash, and he got a scholarship to become a chemical process technician at Dow Chemical, which is located near where I live. And he went, it took him, 12 weeks in this training course, got the scholarship to do it. And then he went from making whatever a car wash manager makes to making over $50,000 a year. So it was a great upskill. And this was a guy who was already a dad. He was already grown up. So there are many different target audiences. But Gen Z, I think, is going to be really great for workforce development, and they're going to take advantage of your programs as long as we can get to them and let them know about it.
I've not received any other questions.
Okay, I do see one that says, I didn't see LinkedIn as a platform that Gen Z uses for communications. They're just getting into it. So because Gen Z, the youngest Gen Zs were born in 2012, obviously those folks are not going to be on there. But as you see, I have a daughter, for instance, and her friends, they're leading edge Gen Z, and they're all just now starting to get into LinkedIn and learning how to use it. So moving down the line, they probably will. But right now, if I were promoting workforce programs that are targeting a 20-something audience, I would stick to the TikTok and the Instagram and this Snapchat. Okay, are we seeing any other ones, Lydia?
No, I have not received any others.
Okay, I'm going to give you one last chance. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and put them in there. If not, you are always welcome to email me. My email is kart@nacce.com, and you will be receiving a recording of this webinar as well as a survey. So I hope it's a quick survey, 5 questions, and 4 of them are multiple choice. So If you could fill that out, it would really help us moving forward in how we program webinars for our members and our future members. So as I don't see any more questions, I just want to thank everyone for coming out today.